Yeah, I'm a couple minutes early, but it's Friday. We're just here to hang out and talk a little bit of Dragonlance and maybe a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, so what's the harm, right? Welcome to another Dragonlance Saga episode. My name is Adam. Today is Bakukal Gildember the 29th, on the off chance you didn't know what today was. And I'm going to be giving you my review of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Now, this is a source book released by Wizards of the Coast. It is the first that I'm aware of, and again, I don't really follow 5th edition, so I don't know for sure, maybe speaking out of school here. But as far as I know, this is the first Dragonlance referenced source book. And I mean, they actually call out Dragonlance and Krynn and denizens of Krynn a handful of times in this source book. So what I did was I just don't care about anything 5th edition at all. In fact, after 2nd edition, I just never really played the game all that often. However, I do like Dragonlance. I built a Dragonlance channel. We might as well talk about it whenever it comes up in whatever form it comes up, right? See, that's what I thought. I'm glad you agree with me. Like this crazy person talking to himself. So I scoured the entire collection and I read most of it and then I skimmed through some, technical bits looking for any Dragonlance reference that I could find. And then I put it in my little document that I'm referencing here as I'm speaking to you. And basically what I want to do is go over every Dragonlance specific reference in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And then after I've given that to you, just sort of riff on the idea of what Dragonlance is going to be in 5th edition, if there's going to be changes. There's rumors of a source book coming out next year when the new trilogy is going to be released. There's rumors of changing the classic era a little bit. They completely changed Dragonlance from just being, the original books to the classic Dragonlance, which leads me to believe there's going to be some significant changes coming in the same way that Lucasfilm and Disney changed all the established EU Star Wars content to Legend. So there's going to be a new canon. There's going to be a new politics involved in it, I'm sure. I just pulled that up from what Charlie just said here. There are politics and Wizards of the Coast. Yes, you are absolutely right. These are definitely their political machinations. But again, I don't know that it needs to change the way that we approach it as fans of the series or as gamers themselves. So we'll get into all that afterward, just sort of riff a little bit. But let's talk about what you can expect to find in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons about Dragonlance specifically, and how do they approach Fizban? The tome is named after him, after all. I'm not sure you can call it a tome because it's pretty thin. It didn't take long to get through. I'll just say that. But before I do, I want to thank the collaborator patrons and all of the patrons who, follow and support this channel. I really do appreciate you. Of course, there's also a YouTube membership system that, if you guys are so inclined to consider supporting this channel, I appreciate it again. And you can find any of those links in the comments below. And then every bit of Dragonlance as PDFs and as print-on-demand source books that have been produced so far are actually available online still, and you can find that for any edition up until 3.5 edition, which is when they stop producing Dragonlance content. And you can also support the show by using the affiliate link in the description in order to, give me a little taste. Get my beak wet a little bit, you know what I mean? Not a lot. Just let me know you care by picking those up for yourself. Okay, that being said, I've got a little bit of a slideshow here as I'm going to be talking to you, and it's just going to run through some imagery. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slide myself aside here. It's going to run through some imagery that is, in my opinion, Dragonlance specific and called out as such, and that'll give you a little bit of a taste on what they're actually seeing in the future as I go through this. One thing that we have to remember about this volume is that, as far as I know, this is the first time they're taking a really completely holistic multiverse view of Dragonlance. Of Dungeons and Dragons. Wizards of the Coast up to now has been releasing little source books about their disparate worlds and campaign settings and, just basic prime material stuff. As far as I know, they were trees. Thanks for joining live, by the way. It's great to see you. they've been playing with, just re-releasing older content and revitalizing it for this new edition that has actually not very new at all because it's been out for years at this point. And it's actually probably at the mid or late stage of its life cycle, if we're being honest. They did say that they're going to be creating revised versions, almost like a 5.5 edition in a couple years. So that is in the pipeline, if not a couple years, then a year or so. But this volume very much gives a tone to the way that Wizards of the Coast is taking. And it's not a new tone. I've been reading the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook and just started the Dungeon Master's Guide a couple weeks ago. And they were talking about multiverses at the beginning of this entire game system. And so all 5th edition is doing is going back to what's already been created and talked about and trying to revitalize it. And of course, there's a whole Planescape series that came out. I think that was 2nd edition. That unified everything. You see Zach Saroth there and a little bit of reimagining Zach Saroth because really it was just Fizban and Tasselhoff climbing that large chain, and now we have a couple others with them, so there might be some revision history happening. Anyway, my point of this is that they're starting the universe from a sort of Big Bang scenario, right? And they're saying that Tiamat, Bahamut, and a 3rd dragon, which is sort of the progenitor of all gem dragons, created the universe, created the first world, and in that first world, there was disruptions amongst the denizens, and the world actually exploded. And different shards of this are what all these other campaign worlds are, whether it's Dragonlance or Forgotten Realms or Eberron or Greyhawk, they called out specifically in this. So they literally took the creation story of Krynn, stole it, and then put it, aside from the whole explosion thing, but, the initial creation of Krynn, and use that as the sort of recipe for creating the first original world. Whatever. Believe whatever you want to believe whenever you're playing the game, because ultimately the dungeon master in your campaign is the one that sets the tone for everything. So if you want to run with this idea, do it. If you don't. That being said, they do reference many different worlds, and the first world that they reference, the first reference to Dragonlance in this is the following. Legends say the world of Krynn, home to the Dragonlance setting, was created in the interplay between the high gods and chaos. Its most important cosmic powers have always been the 3 children of the high god, Paladine, Gillian, and Tikhisis, with Paladine and Tikhisis easily identifiable as Bahamut and Tiamat. According to the creation myths of Krynn, Paladine and Tikhisis worked together to create 5 dragons to rule the world, but Tikhisis secretly corrupted them, creating the first 5 chromatic dragons. Mourning the corruption of his children, Paladine worked with the forge god Reorx to create the metallic dragons. So the history of Krynn involves the strife between Tikhisis and Paladine and the ongoing effort to maintain balance between good and evil. Chromatic dragons have long been Tikhisis' favorite as agents as she strives to dominate the world, while metallic dragons have helped the peoples of Krynn to foil her schemes. Meanwhile, Paladine, in the guise of a doddering old wizard named Fizban, walked among the peoples of Krynn to aid them, just as Bahamut had done on many worlds throughout the long histories. So they set up as one of the many worlds that were broken apart from this one world, Krynn. Now, I don't know if they don't know what a multiverse is, or if they're just applying that name incorrectly to a universe. But they make multiple references, seemingly incorrectly, about like multiple dimensions and then the same universe and then a multiverse, because those are very different things. And I don't want to push my glasses up or anything, and I'm certainly not an expert on the matter, but multiverses are multiple dimensions running at the same time, right? So you have a Krynn in one dimension, a Krynn in another dimension, a Krynn in another dimension, and there may be spines connected throughout, but they are completely different worlds on their own dimensional walls, right? Whereas in the same universe, you might have, the planet of Pharaon in some galaxy and the planet of Krynn in another galaxy or whatever. So it's very, very different, having this idea of multiverses versus many worlds. They do sort of tease this idea of what they reference as dragonsight, right? So there's this dragonsight is this echo between one world and many different worlds, right? So something is so powerful or so impactful in one of these universes, in one of these planets, that it actually reaches through the multiverse in order to be seated on different places or have its brother or cousin location sort of echo that power, right? So they give an example like just as individual dragons have echoes across multiple worlds of the prime material plane, some places of tremendous power that have a connection to dragons resonate across the planes. Dungeons such as the Sunless Citadel, Dragon Mountain, and the ruined city of Zaxxaroth, home to the black dragon Kasanth, manifests in various ways across multiple worlds. Now, again, pushing up my glasses a little bit because Zaxxaroth was not the home of Kasanth. She was actually assigned to watch over the temple there. Very different idea. Very different. But she did have a hoard there, so maybe she was there for a little while, longer than we thought, and maybe that was, in fact, her home, right? Who knows? We know that there are alternate Krynns. We have seen them in fiction. See, that's interesting. I know we've experienced different timelines of Krynns, through the river of time, different deviations, but those have all been corrected for the main timeline, right? So do we have alternate Krynns? Is there a source book that I'm unaware of? Please let me know, because if I would be happy to be, I'm ignorant to that idea. I'd be happy to correct it if I'm wrong. Artifacts associated with dragons can also resonate across the different worlds of material plane. The clearest examples are the orbs of dragonkind described in the Dungeon Master's Guide. On the world of Greyhawk, these artifacts are made during an era where the Sol Imperium battled a cabal of red dragons. On Krynn, the orbs, known as the Dragon Orbs, were created to defend the Towers of High Sorcery from dragon attack. So they're pulling a bunch and connecting a whole bunch of different, not only magic items, but locations as well. Now, what they plant this idea of dragonsight being able to connect from one really powerful dragon or location or item and feed through the multiverse to different planets that have similar or same empowered items. And they use a reference about dragons. Do you think that it's possible that that's Malstrix, right? Because when Takhisis stole the world away into another plane of space-time, is it possible that from another world, Malstrix came and she has a connection of dragonsight to some other great ancient worms, maybe in Forgotten Realms or something like that? That's an interesting idea, because then it would sort of, for me, it would ease the idea of these alien dragons just floating around space and they happen to come across Krynn. I always thought that was a weird idea. Alien dragons that are just floating through space. Doesn't make much sense to me as far as fantasy is concerned. But if it was a manifestation from this immensely powerful other creature, possibly that's how it manifested. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense here, In 3.5, Legend of the Twin Sourcebook. Oh, yeah, I mean, they had alternate Chaos War Anthology I did not read, so I will have to check that out. The Legend of the Twin Sourcebook, they gave you alternate realities and stuff, options for gameplay and stuff, but I wouldn't consider that different worlds or anything. One thing about Dragonlance that always struck me as really interesting, that I enjoyed so much about it, was that you could have these deviant, splinters of the timeline of Krynn, and just sort of play with them however you want. But the main storyline, which is the novels, always had this through line of saying, well, that always snaps back in place, or it always gets corrected because the river of time cannot be diverted ultimately. It is controlled by the high god according to their legends, and it will always just be. No matter the diversion, it will always end up snapping back through the machinations of the denizens of the campaign world, right? Now, that idea has been sort of rolled back a bit, because Wizard of the Coast did say that the novels are no longer canon, and arguably never were canon. And as fans of the books, there's a little bit of panic. The hair raises on the back of your neck a little bit when you hear something like that. But the truth is I've always run my own Dragonlance campaigns. They may have had some tie-in and connections with the novels, but I wanted my players to try to be the heroes. And when I was playing, I wanted to be the hero. I didn't want to have to be a sub-hero to Karaman Majir or Raistlin Majir, right? And so we may have had them, sort of cameo in our campaigns. just as an homage, but we really took we took the reins of the campaigns and made it our own. And so it makes sense that the novels would be one canonical reference and your home games would be a whole different canonical reference. That's just Dungeons and Dragons how it's always been, right? And so I don't know why they phrased it the way they did. It was a little bit concerning, a little scary, but they did, and whatever. Okay, so that was on the Dragonlight section, or Dragonsight section. It's a little bit of time before we get another Dragonlance reference in the book, and it actually comes down in the spells. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, this was months ago. It was in the Unearthed Arcana, which is turned into this online forum for playtesting for Dungeons and Dragons. And they released something called Fizban's Platinum Shield. People were losing their minds. Fizban doesn't give special spells, and he doesn't use shields. Why would he have a spell with a shield? It's just a spell. Like, everyone, simmer down. It's just a stupid protection spell. It doesn't even sound like it's that great. Like, the description of the spell is, you create a field of silvery light that surrounds a creature of your choice within range. You can choose yourself. The field sheds dim light out to 5 feet. While surrounded by the field, a creature gains the following benefits. Cover, the creature has half cover. Damage resistance, the creature has resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison damage. Evasion, if the creature is subject to an effect that allows it to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage. The creature instead takes no damage if it succeeds on the saving throw, and only half damage if it fails. And then as a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can move the field to another creature within 60 feet. Fizban has a little call out at the end of this saying, scholars have engaged in lengthy debates over whether or not this spell should properly be attributed to me. Honestly, I've created so many things, I can't really keep track of them all. And this is a great place to interject how they treated Fizban, I think. My memory of Fizban in my original readings and my rereadings this year of all of the chronicles and legends and subsequent books that I've read so far, again, Fizban seems to grow in stupidity the more they use him. He starts as this sort of feeble old man who sort of, almost has Alzheimer's or something. It's all a ploy, to be the bumbling old wizard and stuff, because really, he's a god. But he seems to get even more stupid and silly in the short stories, exponentially. And the story that Tasloff swore he would never, ever, ever, ever tell, short story, Fizban's a friggin' idiot in it. And I understand they wrap it up so he intended to do everything all along. But how many paragraphs are we as readers supposed to be willing to sit through where we experience the exact same stupidity over and over and over again before you progress with the story? That story could have been 3 paragraphs shorter if Fizban wasn't such an idiot. It's so frustrating. He's a god. I don't know. Have him be forgetful. He loses his hat. Okay. But he's a straight up dumbass in these damn short stories. And not so much in the novels. He's just sort of bumbling and stuff. But geez, they took him out. They just made him so crazy. And if you ever read any of their Deathgate Cycle or there's another trilogy that Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman used him in. They adjusted his name so that there wasn't a copyright issue, but it's the exact same character. He wasn't as stupid in those that he was in the short stories. It just gets really frustrating. And so my point of all of this is not to make fun of Fizban, is to say that I don't think anyone gave Wizards of the Coast any idea about the nature of Fizban or how he projects himself, because they took him a much more, he says little goofy things like, I don't remember making that spell. But that's kind of the extent of it. Other than that, he's just giving you references about world events and people that he's seen and different types of creatures and stuff. Very straight lined. There's none of that sort of typical old Fizban foolishness that we're used to. And the reason why we appreciate him, if we appreciate him, or hate him, if we hate him, in there, really. It's kind of strange. And maybe, again, I have a shifted perspective because I'm a little too deep into this stuff. I can accept that as an idea, but who knows? This is, again, one of the new Draconian. That's an Arak Draconian, by the way. Yeah, their creature design has just jumped the shark. Just garbage. The art style is okay, but just garbage. Ugh. Okay, so let's get into it. Magic items. The Dragonlance. They actually have a Dragonlance in this book. So if you want to bring a Dragonlance into your 5th age games, 5th edition games, you can. The description is, a Dragonlance is a renowned weapon forged of rare metal with the aid of powerful artifacts associated with Bahamut. Ugh. Different lances are forged for use by foot soldiers as pikes and by riders as lances, but the magical properties of the weapon are the same. You gain +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls made by this magic weapon. When you hit a dragon with this weapon, the dragon takes an extra 3d6 force damage, and any dragon of your choice that you can see within 30 feet can immediately use its reaction to make a melee attack, which is kind of cool. Have a good day, Trees. Thanks for stopping in. Again, the Dragonlance, it started out being, it used all of the wielder's hit points. You know, it was supposed to be this incredibly, insanely powerful artifact. And so, you know, it took the life force of the knight wielding it and used that as damage. So that it really was a threat. But 3 to 6 on a great or ancient worm? Not really Dragonlance worthy. Just putting it out there. I guess it depends on the level of the person, but they treat it like a magic item rather than an artifact, you know? And that's what frustrated me so much about those short stories that I was reading yesterday and relaying, is that it treats it like a magic item rather than this sacred artifact. It seems like it should have more weight. It's the namesake of the campaign setting, and they literally just treat it like a pike. Like, all right, whatever. Totally different. Not what I expected. But it's cool that they included it, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so they also include some Dragonlance specific content in the role-playing dragons section. So, for example, on how to name your dragon, they say some dragon names resonate with power and inspire terror. Ashardalon, Dragatha, Klauth, Kelendros, Malstrix, Vaskar. Others are intricate and obscure, reflecting the grandeur of dragons' ancient languages, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce those. So they do continually reference dragons in this way from Krynn. Many dragons are better known by nicknames and epitaphs. Klauth is called Old Snarl, and Kelendros is remembered as Ski and the Storm over Krynn. And then there's some others, and then they get into Chrysinthinil and Cloggy Lamatar are called Kyan Bloodbane and Old Gnawbones, respectively. So it's nice that they are including Dragonlance lore, again, because they're setting up for this multiverse and these source books that are going to be coming later. They want to seed the information in so that it doesn't feel like it's this isolated universe unto its own. It is already blended into the greater Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition at large lore. And then they reference some more in the gods and religion section about Dragonlance. So they say, on many worlds, humanoids worship Bahamut and Tiamat as gods. On Krynn, they are greatest among the gods, though they are known there as Paladine and Takesis and are not always pictured as dragons. Famously, Bahamut traveled to the world of Krynn in the guise of a human wizard named Fizban, guiding the peoples of the world as they prepared for war against the evil forces of Tiamat. I have to be honest, and I'm shouting in the wind at this point. It doesn't matter, right? This is done, this is in print, this is live. The whole reason why it was called Paladine and Takesis was because they did not want to be bound by the rest of D&D lore. They did not want to be trapped with Bahamut dying or being affected in World A, and so it has to be echoed here in Dragonlance. They wanted to be separate. And to then go so far as to take the lore of this campaign setting, of Krynn specifically, and saying that it's Bahamut and not Paladine, and it's Tiamat and not Takesis, well, what are you doing? Every single person who is reading this and bought this understands that there's a Dragonlance campaign. They may not know the minutiae of the campaign, but they're certainly going to understand if suddenly you're referring to Bahamut as Paladine and Tiamat as Takesis. They'll get what you're saying. And you're just going to be giving those who love this setting and are waiting for it to be released in 5th edition a little bit of a nod. You know, you're going to be tipping your cap a little bit, and we appreciate stuff like that. But when you completely strip away the vernacular of this setting, it doesn't feel like the setting anymore. It feels generic prime material. And that may not be a big deal to someone who just plays genetic prime material campaigns, but for those who genuinely love specific campaigns, you have to give them a little attention, you know? You got to pat them on the back a little bit. Let them know that you're there, that you care. Because we're the ones paying you. We're the ones deciding whether or not to give you our hard-earned money. And all it takes is a name. That's it. Okay. Dragon campaigns is the next section where they reference Krynn. Of course, they're talking about the different campaigns that you can have based around dragon and dragonkind. Krynn, the home of the Dragonlance setting, is the battleground for an unending conflict between Bahamut and Tiamat. Unending? Apparently, they didn't read the last novels. Because Bahamut and Tiamat are kind of the way of the dodo, we'll say. I hope that's not a spoiler alert for anyone, but those books have been out for like a decade, so you should know them by now. I mean, how can you say that? And this is the other part of it. They're clearly not going to be going into Dragonlance at the 5th age. That line should tell you straight away that they're not doing it. They're talking about Bahamut and Tiamat having an unending conflict. Well, 5th age, that's not a thing. And I'm not talking about 5th age where Tiamat, or even I'm doing it now, Takisa stole the world away. I'm talking about the conclusion of the War of Souls. So we're clearly going back before, probably during the Age of Despair for this campaign setting. And for those, you know, again, Dragonlance has been around long enough that it has factions within it, right? So you have the original Age of Despair fans, the War of the Lands era fans. You have the 5th age fans, who, you know, came into it just at that time and they really loved 5th age. And War of Souls was actually written in order to try and merge those two fan bases. I don't think it did. But now Wizard of the Coast is going right back to the War of the Lands. So they're going to scorn all the 5th age fans and they're going to renege on some of the storytelling of the War of the Lands. So all they're going to do is kind of piss off the War of the Lands fans. If you deviate from the timeline and you ignore tons of source material, you're not going to unify and bring the fan base something they're excited about. They're just going to be a little bit upset with you and just play it in their own way anyway, ignoring all the hard work that you put in to trying to create this whole new thing for no reason. You know? They'll take the stats and they'll play their game, but they'll ignore all the lore that you're trying to shove down their throats. Talking to you, wizards. So anyway, there's just no way you're going to win with this. Okay, that being said, they also continue. Tiamat commands armies of Draconians, described in Chapter 6, formed from the corrupted eggs of metallic dragons, while heroes and villains alike ride mighty dragons into battle. So it is very much like Spring Dawning era, you know, a little bit of the second half of Winter Dawning, of Winter Night into Spring Dawning era. That it seems like that's going to be the era that they're going to focus on the new trilogy that's coming out next year, and then possibly the campaign source book that's also supposedly coming out next year as well. I don't know. Are you guys okay with a little bit of change? I don't mind bobbing and weaving if I have to. You know, I just want new Dragonlance content because I love the campaign setting. So I'm willing to give a little bit. Just make it good. Make it good. All right, so another section within that are dragon gods. Moving from the realm of temporal power to the spiritual domain, dragons can also fill the role of gods in a campaign world. Elevated to a central role in the beliefs and myths of your setting, the two most important gods in the Dragonlance setting, Paladin and Takesis, are identified with Bahamut and Tiamat, though they're not always worshipped in dragon form. We could also extrapolate that out in the 5th age to Malstrix, Berelinthernox, Kellandros. You know, we can really use this idea seed of dragon gods and play it in any way that we want. And then when they're talking about specific types of dragons, we get a couple references to some Dragonlance specific ones. In Bronze Dragons, they mention Fireflash. Also known as Kirsa, Fireflash is a gregarious and inquisitive bronze dragon with a keen interest in other species, especially dwarves and elves. During the War of the Lands, he was one of the first to answer the call of Savara, the elf identity of the silver dragon Dargent, for the metallic dragons to join the conflict. During the Vingard campaign, Fireflash teamed up with a dwarf named Flint Fireforge and a kender named Tasselov Burfoot to capture High Master Baccharis. Okay, This is probably one of the funniest and most entertaining sequences in Dragons of Spring Dawning. And they didn't really team up to capture the Dragon Lord Baccharis. It kind of happened because they were fumbling around, right? For whatever crazy reason, Baccharis decides to try to step onto this dragon to dislodge. They're like stuck together falling. And Tasselhoff just happens to capture the dude. It's like bumbling and screwing up the whole time as he's like flapping around and screaming and hipping and hawing and just having a great old time. It's a great sequence, but I would never go so far as to say that they planned to capture him. Like Tasselhoff was just a stowaway, ostensibly, you know? I don't know. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad they mentioned him. Later in the Blue Ladies' War, Tasselhoff foresaw Fireflash's demise at the hands of the Death Knight Lord Soth and was able to avert the dragon's grim fate. After the wars, Fireflash faded from the public view, but rumor holds that he continues his lifelong fight against evil, using his legendary skill in aerial combat to assist the Knights of Solamnia. I love that they're referencing all these really wonderful characters and moments in Dragonlance, and it does show that clearly they know the setting. It's just whether or not they're paying attention to it or whether they're going to try to steer it in a specific way or not. In the Silver Dragons, they already mentioned Dargent in the previous section, but they paid off here with Silver Dragon Dargent. Like so many Silver Dragons, Dargent takes considerable interest in the matters of mortals on her homeworld of Krynn. The ancient dragon rarely openly participates in heroics, preferring to help in more surreptitious ways. Apparently they didn't read Lords of Doom. She has been known to join the conflicts of mortals in disguise, either as a brave human knight or as a fierce elf healer with gleaming silver hair named Silvara. And let's not forget Gilthana's peeking in on her as she's taking a bath in a pond. Young Adam really appreciated the description in that scene. Super sexy. Though she is happy to remain in the background, Dargent seemingly placidly hides a brilliant intellect, and she has exposed the machinations of many chromatic dragons on Krynn. She's a romantic at heart, and it is said that she has fallen deeply for mortals more than once. Yep, go Gilthanas. Okay, and now we get to the monster section. So there's a lot of content talking about lairs and specific types of dragons and variations and aberrations of dragons. And they actually do talk about dragon aberrations, which was a thing in 5th Age, right? So the dragon overlords would create dragon spawn, and then when that dragon spawn failed, sometimes they would also create dragon aberrations. These are actually statted out. They're not referenced as Krynn specific, but it's certainly taken from Krynn because, again, I don't know all the sources, but to my base ignorance, it only happened in Dragonlance, the aberrations and the dragon spawn. So it is nice that they included those, even if they didn't attribute it to this campaign world. But then they get to Draconians. And, I'm not poring over all the stats. I'm just kind of looking at, the visual style. And as a Wizard of the Coast, what do? You need to differentiate dragon spawn from, what is it? Dragon spawn? I can't remember what the name of the character player race is. Dragon. Oh gosh, this is gonna again. They came out in 4th edition, I think. Oh dang it! This kills me that I can't remember the name of it. I think it is Dragon Spawn, or it's Dragon something. Anyway, they're basically dragon human characters that you can play that everyone says is the same thing as Draconians, and every Dragonlance nerd is pushing their glasses up saying, actually, they're completely different. Well, now they finally accept and say, yeah, they are totally not the same thing, right? Draconians are bipedal monsters born of dragon eggs that have been corrupted or warped by powerful magic. Most often, this corruption is deliberate act, the work of an aspiring tyrant seeking to transform stolen eggs into a dragon army. A single corrupted egg yields several Draconians of the same kind. A Draconian may be taken for a dragonborn, that's it, at first glance, though the most kinds of the Draconians have wings. When Draconians die, they do not go quietly. Instead, their lifeless bodies unleash a last act of magical violence. So they only show the basic 5 Draconians. I'm not complaining. Having them in the in-game universe is good enough for me. Again, I don't like the art direction. Larry Elmore, I called this out yesterday, but we'll do it again. Larry Elmore, because I'm just having fun. I hope you are too. Larry Elmore defined the idea that once creatures or characters were painted, That is how they will forever be depicted. And it worked perfectly. It's a great way of maintaining story integrity and uniformity throughout a campaign, right? Campaign world. Did they not pay any attention to any of that? What is wrong with maintaining the existing look of Draconians in this new tome? Why change it at all? What are you getting out of changing it? You're saying that it's not the same. You're saying that it's different. So people who hate Dragonlance are just now okay running Draconians in their own world, even though for all intents and purposes, they're the exact same? Or are you just saying, hey, we want to give other artists an opportunity to draw this creature? Well, you can do that and still maintain the integrity of the character. It's like drawing Tasselhoff Birdfoot with his hoopak, but built out like Karaman Majir. It doesn't make any sense. And in this particular case, it's sort of the reverse for some of these Draconians. They look ridiculous. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, once you've established what a goblin looks like, unless it's a variation of a goblin, why do you change a basic goblin? Why do you change a perfectly crafted character like a Draconian into something that looks like a overweight beast? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. These are supposed to be elite fighting creatures. He looks like he needs to get on Weight Watchers or something. Now, I'm not fat shaming Draconians here, so don't write your letters. But there's just no need. I don't know. Larry Elmore's artwork is what always comes to mind to you when you think back to the early D&D Dragonlance, Star Frontiers. Oh, that was great. His art is such a huge part of my growing up. Thanks, Rick, for joining. I really appreciate you, man. Yes, I agree 100%. His artwork is amazing. Why go away from it? I just don't understand it. You could re-envision them in your own art style, looking still like the character. Anyway, I'm done. I'm talking about it. So they even renamed them as if changing their look wasn't the same. But don't worry, because at the very end, they're going to say, but on Krynn, they're called blah, as a sort of throwaway, right? It's just like smacking us in the face for no reason. You could just be cool. You don't have to be a dick. It's a choice you're making. All right. So, Draconian Dreadnought. The largest of the Draconians are Dreadnoughts, who are born from the eggs of silver, blue, or sapphire dragons. The sapphire. They fly on mighty wings over the battlefield to wherever the fighting is thickest. Their magical ability to change their appearance to mimic those they've slain allows them to sow confusion. Okay, so that's the other thing. They changed to the way their killer looks, like if Karaman Majir killed the Draconian, the laying corpse there looks like Karaman Majir, to then being able to actually change while they're alive into what they kill. So it's a total flip on the power. When dreadnoughts are killed, their bodies burst into flames, scorching everyone around them. On the world of Krynn, Draconian dreadnoughts formed from silver dragon eggs are called Seavac Draconians. So again, they just totally just messed it up. I don't know. Draconian foot soldier. That doesn't even look like a Draconian to me. Is like the new Godzilla? Right? He's like standing up Godzilla with not the T-Rex hands, but like real arms. Ugh. The most numerous Draconians are the foot soldiers, who are born from brass white or crystal dragon eggs. They're the smallest of their kind, and their slight wings are incapable of flight, though they do afford the Draconians some control when falling. These wings are small enough to be hidden beneath a cloak or robe, so foot soldiers sometimes disguise themselves to get close to enemies before springing in ambush. When Draconian foot soldiers die, they unleash clouds of petrifying gas, turning their corpses and any creatures within the clouds to stone. On the world of Krynn, Draconian foot soldiers formed from brass dragon eggs are called Baz Draconians. Lilac Commander's final form. I don't know that reference. So let's see. Draconian Infiltrator. Copper, black, and topaz dragon eggs yield these sly and stealthy Draconians, who often serve their creators as scouts and spies. They use the paralytic venom of their saliva to coat their weapons, making them formidable assassins as well. Their wings allow them to turn a fall into a rough glide. When Draconian infiltrators formed from copper dragon eggs are called, on Krynn, they're called Capac Draconians. Let's see. Draconian Mage. Draconians born from the eggs of bronze, green, and emerald dragons have some ability to wield magic. They often lead small groups of draconian foot soldiers, using their magic to snipe across the battlefield or aid their allies' incursions and attacks. They have wings that allow them to glide during a fall. When draconian mages die, their flesh shrivels away before their bones explode, sending a shower of magical splinters in all directions. On the world of Krynn, draconian mages formed from bronze dragon eggs are called Bozak Draconians. And finally, we have the Draconian Mastermind. The rarest and most powerful of the Draconians are the Masterminds, spellcasters and strategists who most often serve as military commanders or as advisors to those who created them. They emerge from gold, red, or amethyst dragon eggs, wingless, but possess an arsenal of eldritch power. Like the dragon progenitors, masterminds have a breath weapon, a billowing cloud of poisonous gas. They also have formidable claws and teeth they use to rend foes to close combat. Dying draconian masterminds are a sight to behold as their magical essence coalesces as a ball of lightning that arcs out at those nearby. On the world of Krynn, draconian masterminds formed from gold dragon eggs are called Aurak Draconians. So that is the last of the Draconians, and that is the last of the Dragonlance references in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Kind of frustrating because I was hoping for a little bit more. There's some images here. Let me go over to it. See if we can find it. So again, this is Axaroth. I'm looking over here, but it's actually over here. This is Axaroth, where Fizban is, with the golden bird, which is a gold dragon. Tasselhoff is on the inside, closest to the dragon there. And it looks like, is that supposed to be Flint? And I don't know who else that is. Like, who's the guy closest to us? And there's like one more up top. I'm a little concerned that they're totally rewriting the entire thing. And it reminds me of, at the very beginning of, I think it's the first book in the War of Souls trilogy. Oh, man, hold on a second. I'm going to call it out. It's Dragons of a Fallen Sun. I'm reading it right now, which is ironic that I can't remember the title of it. But, Tasselhoff comes back, and he comes back to speak at Caramin's funeral. And then he's talking about all the people who are there and all the roles that they inhabit, and it's not what's happening right now. So he clearly went to an alternate timeline before coming back in order to sort of beat the funeral. That's what this is going to be very much like, I think. It's just an alternate timeline that is upset either by Tasselhoff or it's going to be by some other, Takesis's control or something like that. But that's what I think these new books are going to be. A totally deviated timeline, splintered off either from the future or the past, starting and really affecting during the War of the Lands. And I think this is proof that is in fact what it's going to be. Then we also have, I hit the button, but it didn't go. We have Lorana, Lorelanthalassa, and Kitiara Uthmatar fighting. So they call this out as in the Temple of Naraka, right? I'm trying my best to remember. I remember when Lorana broke free, she kicked the crap out of Tanis and then sort of ran away. I don't remember her clashing swords with Kitiara, though she may have. I'm not entirely sure of that moment when she ran away, whether, I think maybe she did take someone's sword and stuff. Are they allergic to what Dragonlance is or was and now feel they need to change everything? I kind of feel like it. I don't know. But again, this might be Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman's fault. They might be the ones who, in writing this new trilogy that goes back to the original era, that's the jumping off point that Wizards took to create this new content. So it may not be Wizards' fault alone. We just have to hold and read the book and to find out, really. Dennis the Tiefling. Oh, no. No. Please, no. Whether it happened or not, because honestly, I just can't remember that scene very, very well in my mind. I've read so many of these stinking stories over the years. I love seeing them come to steal. There was the moment in Dragons of a High Lord's Skies when Kitiara did go toes with Lorana and then knocked her down, and she was ready to kill her, but then she just sort of gave up at the last moment to get away. This kind of reminds me of that, you know, if they were in Tarsus or something. But the fact that it does call out that it is in the Temple of Naraka, I don't know. I dig the art piece, though. I think it's really kind of cool. I liked Kitiara's take. You know, her hair is a little more flowy than it's been portrayed in the past, but I dig it. She looks super tough. Laurana looks like a beast here. She does not look like a delicate elven flower at all. She looks like the golden general for sure, even though it's a little more, adds a little more auburn than gold. But yeah, great shot. I dig it. All right, and then here we have, I included this because I felt like it could very well be Dragonlance, even though they did not call it out specifically as such, where it's Fizban discussing with other metallic dragons. And so I would imagine this is him going to the Dragon Isles, sitting down with the most powerful dragons or the leaders of the different dragon clans and being like, look, I know you made promises. The eggs were taken. Can you hook a brother up? We need people. We need something to ride on. The Griffins are great. Don't get me wrong. I love the Griffins. Not quite the dragon. You know what I mean? I feel like my boys out there fighting the evil dragons would do a lot better on your back. Eh? What do you say? That's like verbatim, by the way. Oh, yeah, of course, man. That's Laurana all the way. She's awesome in that. So I guess my ultimate point of all this is that just give me Dragonlance. If there's deviations from what I know, that's okay. You know, I watch a ton of different Batman films, and not all of them are the Batman that I have in my head as Michael Keaton. You know, growing up, that was Batman to me. Not all Star Wars films are the Star Wars films that I grew up with. Return of the Jedi, when Luke in his black outfit walks into Jabba's palace, force chokes dudes, and just like messes up a Rancor and then rescues his friends on the sail barge, that's my Star Wars. The prequels were pretty cool to me, but the sequels kind of sucked to me. And so I don't have to like everything in the fandom, and I'm okay with that. But the fact that they're doing something with it, that's what's important to me, because there's always going to be little nuggets, you know, there's always going to be little bits. I may not agree with this, but I kind of like that. That sort of thing. I often see that whenever I see a fandom, you know, steer in different directions. I may not always like the direction, but there are elements that I like, and I certainly, at the bottom of it all, love that they're doing something with it. So congratulations on moving a step toward the right direction, Wizards, even if it was a shuffle sidestep. Let's get back on course. Let's go to core real Dragonlance. And I say real as in the stuff that's been out there for more than 30 years. Right? Can we just do that? I'll be a happy camper. I'm sure all the other Dragonlance fans would too. But yeah, this does seem to be the direction that they're taking, where they're folding Dragonlance, taking away from it being its own thing, like it always was intended to be, bringing it in-house so that it is now part of this multiverse as they're referencing, even though I think they just mean universe, and sharing artifacts, creatures, dragons, locations out with the other disparate worlds in an effort to try to unify this whole Dragonlance universe itself. Dungeons and Dragons universe itself. I guess I'm okay with that. I'm a little concerned. I'll give my final verdict once I read the new trilogy and I read the source book that they put out next year. If they put one out next year, hopefully they do. And of course, I'll always give you guys my opinions, whether you care to hear it or not. It's your choice, really. You're in control here. But I'm going to put it out there. So that's it for my review of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. It does not have a lot of Dragonlance material in it. There's just little smatterings. Not all of it's great either. But what do you expect? We can't get everything we want, right? Is it worth the $30 or the $20? No. Not for Dragonlance alone, it's not. I bought it so I could make this video, and I have buyer's remorse. So if you're out there on the fence going, should I get it? I'm a Dragonlance fan, and that's the reason why I would get it, then no, don't get it for that reason. If you just like to play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and you just want some more good, genuinely good campaign ideas for dragons and stuff, well then yeah, Definitely get it, because it is filled with that. It's filled with a lot of great stuff that is not Dragonlance specific, that it is really good adventure material. For that purpose, it's good, but not for Dragonlance. Just let you know. You're surprised to hear that kobolds weren't included in the source book. Yeah, they weren't in this at all. They did talk about them being minions in passing, like dragon minions, because they were talking about dragons being overlords or being sort of like dictators of different regions. Very 5th Age Dragonlance that they're talking about without saying 5th Age Dragonlance, which they should have, because it makes perfect sense. And they referenced kobolds then, but they're not like monster stat that I can remember of it at all. So anyway, Skull Cowboy, thanks for joining live, man. Great to see you. So this is my face. Sorry. That's all I got. It's the one that I came with. It's factory sealed. Yeah, let me know what you think. If you ever pick this up for yourself, do you appreciate just having Dragonlance references in it? Do you like the direction that Wizards of the Coast has taken Dragonlance and folding it into the rest of the Dungeons & Dragons universe? Let me know in the comments below, or you can always shoot me an email, info@dragonlance-saga.com. I've had a great time. Thank you guys so much for joining me live. If you're watching live or after the fact, that's always fun too. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join me in the celebration. Till next time, my name is Adam Slunjavar.